Welcome to the programme. A preliminary report by the Israeli army has revealed that 3 captives in Gaza were killed as a result of Israeli soldiers not following the rules of engagement. The initial probe says the captives were not wearing shirts and one was waving a white flag. On seeing them, an Israeli soldier shouted "terrorists" and started firing. 2 fell to the ground. The 3rd managed to escape, but despite reportedly pleading in Hebrew to the Israeli soldiers, he was also shot and killed. The Israeli army has released a preliminary report on the killing, saying they were killed because the troops did not follow the army's rules of engagement. All 3 were shirtless, with one of the figures carrying a stick with a makeshift white flag. The soldier believed it was an attempt by Hamas to lure them into a trap and immediately opened fire. The soldier, who immediately opened fire upon identifying the 3 men, did so against protocols. Bernard Smith, our correspondent, joins us now from Tel Aviv. An embarrassing admission, really, by the Israelis that their own soldiers killed Israeli captives. The fallout is going to be huge for the Israeli government, surely.
So on Friday, when the news broke that these 3 captives had been shot by the Israeli military, reverberated across Israel. It's come as an enormous shock. And this preliminary report heaps misery on to misery, really, for the families of those 3 men who were killed and for the families of the captives, 129 of them still in Israel. Israel's military says, no, the soldiers who shot those 3 men did not follow protocols, or the military says it understands why. And it says it understands why because it says Hamas fighters are not wearing military uniforms, they're wearing civilian clothes, and sometimes they're unarmed, and sometimes they pick up weapons from elsewhere. Sometimes they say Hamas fighters have been spotted approaching them, trying to lure Israeli soldiers in, and in fact they're wearing suicide belts, and that is why the Israeli military says it sees why this happened. And perhaps as a conclusion to their report, the Israeli military says the scenario itself of hostages walking around in a battle zone was never taken into account. Perhaps an attempt to explain why the soldiers did what they did, because they hadn't been trained to appreciate that this might happen. So,
of course, Qatar's foreign ministry also saying that diplomatic efforts to reach a new ceasefire in Gaza are continuing. In a statement, the ministry expressed hope for building upon the progress made to accomplish a comprehensive and sustainable agreement that would end the war, stop the bloodshed of Palestinians and lead to serious negotiations, and the launch of a political process that yields a comprehensive, permanent and just peace in accordance with international resolutions and the Arab Peace Initiative. And Bernard, obviously, a great deal of high-level political negotiations ongoing in Europe, we believe. Just bring us up to speed on what we know, because it all revolves at the moment around those Israeli captives.
Well, we know now that the head of Mossad, Israel Security Services, met on Friday night with Qatar's Prime Minister in Europe. We think it was in Oslo, to discuss another attempt to get captives released by Hamas. Israel, we understand, has laid down the terms of that. They want the women captives releasing as part of any new deal. For all of the families here, it gives them some hope, because they really are frustrated that so far they believe their government hasn't done enough to release captives.
There is no price for the hostages. The Israeli government must be ready to pay any price for their release, to make a deal. Now, that is what I'm saying. Yesterday, not now.
We must reach a negotiation for the release of all the hostages, now. We're in a kind of Russian roulette, us the families. Every day, we don't know which one of the families of the 130 hostages will get a knock on the door with the horrible news.
Now, before the shooting of these 3 captives, there were rumours that Israel was prepared next week to start exploring the possibility of starting new talks. It said by then it would be in a strong position militarily. But this shooting of those 3 captives has forced Israel's hand. It's back on the back foot, and it will now have to see what Hamas is willing to offer in terms of any possible exchange.